Dear friends, welcome to this week's virtual Drasha. This week we have the incredible privilege to be Parashas Titzaveh. And in this week's parasha, we continue in the journey of the creation of the Mishkan with a specific focus on the Big Day Kahuna, the unique clothing worn by the Kohanim during their service in the Mishkan and later on in Meretz Hashem and the Beis HaMikdash. But the parasha actually begins not with a discussion regarding Big Day Kahuna, but instead begins with a discussion regarding the Shemen Zayis Zach, the need to create olive oil, pure olive oil, virgin olive oil, for use in the menorah. And the Torah says, the opening pasuk in the parasha, V'yata Titzaveh b'nei Yisrael. Now you, Moshe Rabbeinu, command Klal Yisrael, V'ikchu elecha shemen zayis zach. Take for yourself pure olive oil, kasis lama'or, that's crushed in order to create light, laha'alos ner tamid, in order to go ahead and create an everlasting light. So, simple, straightforward mitzvah. Create olive oil, use it for the menorah. There should be a perpetual, ongoing, eternal light in the Beis HaMikdash. And the Baal HaTurim says something interesting. The Baal HaTurim says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes out of his way to tell Moshe, listen, tell Klal Yisrael, command Klal Yisrael, v'yikchu elecha. They should bring to you literally, or they should take for you, shemen zayis zach. So why v'yikchu elecha? Why does it have to be take for you? And the Baal HaTurim says something very interesting. He says, aval ani eini tzarech la'ora. I don't need the light. In other words, it's almost as if the Baal HaTurim is saying, Kadosh Baruch Hu saying to Moshe, lest you think that I'm telling you to get the olive oil to kindle the menorah because I need light. I'm a Kadosh Baruch Hu. I don't need light. I don't need light. The light is for you. V'yikchu elecha. It'll benefit for you. And I think perhaps the pasuk is also conveying to us something additionally profound. This idea, v'yikchu elecha, Kadosh Baruch Hu telling Moshe Rabbeinu that in life, you have to create your own light. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, I have enough light. I'm the Ribbon Shalom. I'm past, present, future, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, all these things. So says, I have light because I get to see the entire continuum of the universe. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I know, as HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I know that Gam Tova. I don't just say it, I know it. I know that everything is going to be okay. But Moshe Rabbeinu, what you have to teach Klal Yisrael is, v'yikchu elecha shemen zayis zach kasis lama'or lahalos ner tamid. A person in life has to find their shemen zayis zach. You have to find your olive oil. You have to create your own light. Because life could sometimes be overwhelming. And life could sometimes be difficult. And life could be challenging. You have to find your oil. You have to find your shemen zayis zach kasis lama'or, because you have to create your ner tamid. You have to create your light. You have to create your simcha. You have to create a sense of luminescent enlightenment for yourself in this world. I, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I have it. But you have to create it for yourself. There's a beautiful story. In addition, before I tell the story, to these days of being, or this Shabbos being Parashas Titzaveh, it's also Purim Katan. Friday is Yudalid Adar Aleph. Shabbos is Tesvav Adar Aleph. And these days are called Purim Katan. And Purim Katan, again, it's a little bit strange because we're not exactly sure what to do with these days. The Shulchan Aruch paskins that we don't say Tachanun. According to some, we don't deliver eulogies or we don't fast. The Ramah has a discussion about whether or not there's a concept of celebration. So the Ramah quotes an opinion that says you should have a little bit more of a celebratory meal. And then he says, we're not knowing this way. The Mishnah Berurah quotes Rav Yechiel mi Paris, who says you should have a celebratory meal. And Rav Yechiel Paris would invite people to join him for a meal. So the identity of the day is a little bit strange. What exactly do we do? In other words, don't get me wrong, it's nice to be off from Tachanun, right? That's always cause for celebration for many people, especially if it's a Monday or Thursday, forget about it. Then it's Saint Simcha Gedol Mizo. But even on a Friday, people will take it. Baruch Hashem. But what do we do with these days? So it's Parashas Titzaveh, it's Purim Katan, and I want to share with you something amazing. There's a story, I saw this brought down in the Sefer Sifsei Chaim, and he quotes from the Sons of Rav, the Divrei Chaim, Rav Chaim of Sons. And the Sons of Rav would tell a story about the great tzaddik, Rav Moshe Leib of Sasov Rebbe. And the story is told like this, that it was one day, Erev Yom Kippur, the Rav Moshe Leib of Sasov had finished his Seudah. He finished his meal. And he went out, Seudah Mavsekes, and he went out into the shuk, L'chapes ulai yazmin lo Hashem yisbarach eze mitzvah lasos gemilas chasadim. The story is incredible in and of itself. Because the Sasov Rebbe went wandering in the marketplace. Why? What was he looking for? He was looking for, it's Erev Yom Kippur. He's about to go into HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Yom Slicha V'Chapar, the Day of Forgiveness. And he's looking for one more mitzvah. Give me one more mitzvah. And specifically what he's looking for is chesed. Give me one more opportunity for gemilos chasadim. One more chesed opportunity. That's what he wants. That's what he wants to go into Yom Kippur. You find this by many of the Rebbes, that in the moments before Yom Kippur, when they were looking in an effort to kind of tilt the scales in their favor, they were always looking for a chesed, always looking for some interpersonal act that they could do to shift the balance of merit in their direction, in their favor. So the Titzaveh Rebbe is out in the marketplace looking for a chesed. He stumbles upon an ani, a poor person, and he asks the man, would you like a l'chaim? You look a little down, you look a little upset, you look a little down, you look, you're an ani. Can I give you a l'chaim? Go into Yom Kippur b'simcha, like the Gemara says, the Mishnah says, that Yom Kippur is one of the happiest days of the year. So go into Yom Kippur, and the ani, of course, as the poor person, sure. First of all, to have a l'chaim with the Titzaveh Rebbe, such an incredible schos. So of course, he says, yes, I would love to have the l'chaim. So gives him the l'chaim. So again, he says, takes him to a home, or takes him to happen to make a l'chaim together. Afterwards, Moshe Yosasov says to the man, he says, would you like to try even a better l'chaim? In other words, I gave you a whiskey. Would you like to try something even better than whiskey? You see, here in Baltimore, south of the Mason-Dixon line, we call that thing better than whiskey. We call it bourbon. Okay, but he was still going and offering him whiskey. Would you like to try even a better whiskey? Even a better whiskey? The man says, of course. So Moshe Yosasov takes the man to the distillery. And they're the high-end distillery in town. And they're distilling all of these different spirits. And he orders for the ani a glass of the finest whiskey. And the ani again makes a l'chaim, drinks the whiskey, delicious. His spirits lifted, and again ready to go into Yom Kippur with a little bit of a renewed sense of optimism. So the ani turns to Moshe Yosasov, and he says, Rebbe, could I ask you, why didn't you just bring me here first? In other words, I appreciate the first l'chaim that you gave me. It was fine. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. And if that would have been it, I would have said Dayenu, I would have said fantastic, beautiful, such a schos. But apparently you knew that you were going to take me to this distillery, right? You knew that you were going to give me this better whiskey, these finer spirits. So why didn't you just bring me here first? And I want to quote you from the story. He responded, Ratzisi lasos lecha nachas ruach, shetisod libcha terem bo'echa hina. I wanted you to be happy before you came to the distillery. I wanted you to feel a sense of contentment even before you had that second l'chaim. Meaning what? Moshe Yosasov says, listen, had I brought you into this distillery first, you were still a bit sabrochen. You're right, you're a little bit broken, a little bit downtrodden, a little bit upset, a little bit down on yourself. So he gave you the first l'chaim. The first l'chaim, so to speak, took the edge off of your circumstances. The first l'chaim, again, lifted the weight a little bit off you, right? It was like the kos shel tanchum, the cup of consolation that the Gemara Maseches Katan describes they would give to Avelim. They would give to mourners on the way back from the Levaya. So again, this was your kos shel tanchum, took the edge off a little bit. And then when you came into the distillery and you had the second l'chaim, you mamish enjoyed it. Had I brought you right into the distillery, again, you would have been still like a little bit broken, a little bit upset, and you would have had the l'chaim, but it wouldn't have had the same effect on you. But now, you came into the distillery with the first l'chaim under your belt, and now you're really able to enjoy, to fully savor the beauty of that second l'chaim. That's the story. That's the story. And I thought, what an incredibly dramatic idea. What the Rebbe, what Moshe Yosasov was trying to convey, what the Sanz Rav was trying to convey by retelling the story, is that sometimes you have to prepare yourself to be happy. Happiness doesn't just occur. I spoke in a different shir this week that happiness is a process. But I think I want to say a little bit differently. Happiness is a choice. A person has to choose to be happy. We make the mistake of thinking that happiness is the result. Happiness is the state of being when everything you want falls into place. Happiness is a state of being which occurs when everything you want materializes the way you want, how you want, when you want. However, here's the challenge. If that's the definition of happy, if that's what happiness is, we're never going to be happy. Because no one ever has a life where every single thing falls into place exactly how you want it, when you want it, where you want it. That's not life. That's not the human condition. That's not the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu structured our time here in this world. Life is a series of peaks and valleys. And even when you're at a peak and everything is great, it's never a situation where everything is great. There's always something. There's always something. So how does a person become happy? Happiness is a choice. Happiness is me sitting myself down, so to speak, and saying, you know what? There may be a lot of stuff that's broken, but there's also a lot of really beautiful things. But maybe there's more broken than beautiful. It's possible. But how do you want to approach life? How do you want to approach your circumstances? Who's the you want to create? What is the emotional disposition that you want to adopt for yourself? Happiness is a choice. I choose to be happy, or I choose to be unhappy. Now, some of you may think, you know what? That's such an oversimplification, right? Silber, he's discounting all of the difficulties and all the trials and tribulations of life. No, I'm not. Even with all the trials and tribulations, which we all have in different degrees and different measures, you make a choice whether or not you want to adopt a disposition of happiness. And I think that's what Moshe Leib of Sasa was trying to teach this guy. You know, when you walked into the distillery, walking right into that, you wouldn't have been ready for it because you weren't in a state of simcha. The first l'chaim, that was your that kind of put you in a mindset so that when you were able to walk into this distillery, gewaldig, incredible, beautiful, wonderful, you were able to put yourself in a real, because you chose happiness earlier on. Or maybe to say a little bit differently, from Moshe Leib of Sasov, that first l'chaim for this ani, that was the shemen zayis zach kasis lama'ar. That's the thing I'm going to do to myself. I'm not encouraging people to utilize l'chaims as a way to find their simcha. Again, this is just metaphorical. But the idea over here is that first l'chaim, that was your shemen zayis zach kasis lama'ar. That was the moment when you made your decision. Your decision. That was the vehicle. I'm going to be b'simcha. I don't want to be miserable. I don't want to be upset. I don't want to walk around sabracha. I don't want to wear all my troubles on my sleeve. And then when you walked into the second distillery, right, or the first distillery, you had the second l'chaim, then lahalos ner tamid, then you were able to find simcha. Simcha is a choice. Dear friends, there comes a time in life where a person has to ask, do I want to be happy? And my happiness cannot be dependent and cannot be contingent on all of the other things. I want a shidduch, and I want parnasa, and I want refu, and I want my kids to be happy, I want my marriage to be good. Okay, we all want all of those things. But if you're going to wait to be happy until all of those things fall into place, then you're never going to be happy. Happiness is a choice. We make a choice to focus on the good. We make a choice to focus on the beauty. We make a choice to have that l'chaim. We make a choice to have that shemen zayis zach kasis lama'ar. Focus on that thing that brings you light. And if you do that, lahalos ner tamid, you'll find simcha. You'll find happiness in life. And this is why Kadosh Baruch Hu is like Moshe Rabbeinu, v'yikrei lecha. Moshe, tell them, they got to find their light. They got to find their l'chaim. They have to find their shemen zayis zach kasis lama'ar. They have to find the ability to be b'simcha. Mi HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm always b'simcha. But Moshe, you have to teach them that happiness is a choice, and they have to choose simcha. And friends, I think this maybe is the yesod of Purim Katan as well. You know, the whole yesod of Adar is mishenichnas Adar marbim b'simcha. We go into Adar, and again, there's a proliferation of joy. If you want to have a lebedig and simchadig Purim, the first thing you have to do is choose simcha. Ubacharta, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, bacharta b'chaim. Choose life. And add on, ubacharta b'simcha. Choose to be happy. Choose to be happy. And maybe that's the avoda of Adar Aleph. Maybe that's the avoda of Purim Katan. That comes this Friday, comes this Shabbos. You know what? I'm making a conscious decision to be happy. I'm not ignoring my problems. I'm not wishing them away. But I'm choosing not to allow them to define the emotional equilibrium of my existence. I am choosing simcha. And if you could choose simcha on Adar Aleph, if you could make a conscious decision to choose simcha on Purim Katan, if you could find your oil, find your l'chaim, find the thing that gives you that push to be b'simcha, then Emir Hashem Purim will be off the charts. Then Adar Beis, so to speak, the true Adar, will Emir Hashem be a true riboy b'simcha. May we be zilcha Emir Hashem to heed the advice of Moshe Rabbeinu, to seize the yikroi lecha, shemen zayis zach, to find the things in life that make us happy, to choose happiness. May we zochem Yirtzeh Hashem to make this a Purim Katan that is not just marked by the omission of Tachanun and the absence of fasting or eulogies, but to make this a Purim Katan in which we choose Simcha, we choose the L'chaim, we choose to define ourselves and to define our lives by the beautiful things that are happening. And in that schus, may we zochem Yirtzeh Hashem to enter into Adar Beis, girded and filled with beautiful Simcha. And may that Ribui Simcha, may that proliferation, amplification of beautiful joy follow us in the months ahead as well, for us and for all of Am Yisrael. Wishing everyone a good Erev Shabbos and a beautiful Shabbos Kodesh.